software there today. Let's get started. Never lose a word. How to master Scrivener's backup features so we can avoid our our life's work going up in flames, right? That would be no fun. Let me see if I can pull up the chat too. I'm looking at it too. Okay, so right away, we're gonna get right into it. This is our last webinar for this month, so I hope you enjoy it. We got a lot of great stuff. Let's dive right in here. So I don't know if we have any new people here. I think I saw at least one new person. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Oliver Evanson. I'm a writer, editor, Scrivener, and writing mentor, largely thanks to this amazing software. And for the better part of 15 years, I have used Scrivener to improve my own writing and editing skills. And I'm so excited to teach you these skills in my position as the outreach specialist for Literature and Latte, the creators of Scrivener and Scapple. Now, I absolutely love connecting with other like-minded writers like me. So if you'd like to connect with me, send me an email. Oh, I love getting your guys' emails. I got a couple. I've been getting them all week long. I tend to get more this week because people are more conscious, right? So I love getting those. If you have questions, if you have feedback, if you have ideas for topics you'd like to hear, let me know. That helps me out a lot, helps me help you out. And in the end, we're all better for it. And of course, if you want to join my email list, you certainly can at ojevanson.com/newsletter. I frequently send out valuable tips and techniques to help you become a better writer, and all subscribers will receive a free copy of my free starter novel template. And last but not least, I'm very, very excited about this. I've been talking about this all week long. I have started posting weekly installments of my to be published book. Okay, it's in the beta read stage, and I'm excited to share that with you. So if you're interested in looking at what I'm working on in Scrivener, go to oliverevanson.substack.com and check that out. It's a lot of fun. I think you'll really like it. Okay, diving right in. Now that we've gotten better acquainted, let's discuss our schedule for today's session. So to begin with, I'll provide a short introduction of what you should expect to learn today. And there are 5 key things I'm hoping we can cover today, 5 key skills. We'll look at that and what those are. Next, we'll move on to our training where I'll cover the 3-2-1 backup rule, automatic and manual backups, and so much more. And last but not least, we will wrap it up with our free resources and our Q&A at the end for any questions that you may have for me there. Okay, now here, let's talk about what I'm promising to teach you guys, and let's get it done. So first off, like I said, there are 5 things I want to cover. First one is I want to teach you how to use the 3-2-1 rule or backup rule to ensure that you never lose a word of your writing. That's the goal here. We create so many redundancies, it's almost impossible to lose anything. 2, how to set up automatic backups so you can feel confident that your writing is safe and secure with minimal effort on your part. Okay. 3, how to manually back up your project so you can freely back up your work to an external drive. That's a really good idea too. Having an external drive to keep as an extra redundancy is an excellent place to keep some redundancies there. 4, how to back up your projects to the cloud so you can access your backups from any device. And there are pros and cons to that, but I still recommend it. I think it's a great backup option you can have as well in addition to an external drive and even locally on your computer. And last but not least, how do we restore from a backup so you can recover your writing in the event that something goes wrong with one of your projects, okay? So by the conclusion of this presentation, you should have the skills you need to safeguard your writing from any potential data loss. That's the goal here. And so by the end, hopefully that's what we'll feel. You'll feel more confident in that, and we'll definitely address that in the end. So if there's anything you're confused about, we'll get to that in the Q&A. Okay, so let's talk about the 3-2-1 backup rule. I don't know how many of you have heard of this rule or know anything about it. Is anyone aware of this rule? It's actually not just a Scrivener rule. This is just a general guideline for backing up. We'll see if anyone drops me a line in the chat or not. If not, that's fine. It's good. That means you'll learn about it today. So the 3-2-1 backup rule is a widely adopted strategy to ensure regular backups of critical data, and it can be seamlessly applied to our Scrivener project. And the rule is defined as follows. First off, we have 3 copies of your work, the original plus 2 backups. This ensures that if one copy is lost or corrupted, you still have another backup to recover from, thereby safeguarding your important files and data from unforeseen incidents, right? And then the next one is number 2, right? Store 2 files on 2 different types of media, such as a computer's internal hard drive and an external hard drive to ensure redundancy to safeguard against data loss, right? And then number one, I guess you could say we're going to go 3, 2, 1. Keep one copy offsite in a different physical location, such as a relative's house or secure. I mean, if we're going really crazy, secure storage facility. I kind of sometimes I'll count the cloud as my offsite one because it isn't stored directly in here in my on my computers or in a server in my house. It's stored somewhere else on someone else's server, in so that can be useful and can be a great place to keep an offsite copy, so to speak. Okay. So this is, to safeguard against in the case of local disasters or hardware failure directly on your device that you use daily, your daily driver, right? Okay. Now, one extra thing you can do that I do encourage is it's actually a good idea to back up your entire user folder. So if you have no idea what that means, every computer has a folder for each user on it, and you could actually back up that entire thing. You could back up the entire user folder. So whether you're on a Mac or a PC, this is a great way to preserve all the files on your computer, including your Scrivener project. But what's really cool about this too is it'll also preserve your Scrivener app settings too. So things like compile settings, templates, spelling check dictionaries, etc., and so much more. Now, unfortunately, that specific option that kind of goes beyond the scope of what we're going to discuss today, or how to do. Like, it's more about how to do a full system backups. But I just wanted to mention it because it is worth noting that going this extra step can provide even more peace of mind in the event of a hard system failure. Because not only will you save your Scrivener projects, which is what we're going to cover today, you'll save just about everything on your computer as well. Now, you could use a cloud sync solution like Dropbox, an external drive, or a dedicated backup system service by some provider. All these options have various pros and cons. So if you do go this route, you want to carefully consider which option will work best for you for your situation. But it is a good thing to do, and I did want to mention it there, even though we're not going to strictly cover it today. But now that we've covered the 3, 2, 1 rule, let's discuss how we can implement this rule and even maybe potentially exceed its recommendations to develop a foolproof strategy for preserving every word of your writing. Let's dive right in. First off, as you may be well aware, Scrivener has built-in automatic backup settings. And in most cases, for most users, this is already set up for you. You don't really have to think about it, but it's worth looking at it, maybe making some adjustments for your specific situation. And if you were using the Mac App Store version, I believe that one is not set up automatically. You will want to, after this, if you bought it from the Mac App Store, you'll probably want to go in and get this set up. Okay, let me get a drink real quick. Okay, so let's see. Today, first off, we're going to look at essentially there are a bunch of different options for backing up here. So we have our, let's see here, set it up. Okay, yeah. So we have backup on open and close, right? So that's where we can back up our project either when it opens or when it closes. Now, personally, I prefer to back up upon closing. The end of a writing session, it does slightly delay because when you back up on open, for me, it just kind of slightly delays my workflow. I have to wait for it to back up, takes a few minutes. Whereas at the end of the day, what I'll do is I'll just close out my project. Once I'm done writing, I can just leave it there. If it takes a minute or two to back up, then that's fine. I just come back and check it, make sure it's finished. Now, one pitfall I've observed with backing up with on opening when your project is open or closed, particularly when it's being closed, is that I often see that some users will leave their Scrivener project open indefinitely. Okay. Now it's really easy to switch between tasks or take a break without closing the project. But unfortunately, this actually will prevent the automatic backup from triggering. Okay. So what will happen is, you'll leave your computer open or you'll leave your project open. Maybe you're using a laptop. You just close your laptop and you walk away, right? Well, when you close your laptop and put it to sleep, it didn't actually close out Scrivener and therefore didn't trigger that automatic backup. So to avoid this, a couple ways you can do that. First off, just remember to close out the app, right? Close Scrivener and Scrivener will automatically just back that up for you before it quits out and closes. Alternatively, if you find yourself forgetting, you can also set up the automatic quit option, and I'll show you how to do that today, which will close your project if it's idle for more than a few minutes. Now, that feature is really good, but if you're using a laptop, it's not going to trigger the automatic quit either if you close it and put it to sleep. So just be aware of that. It's just a good idea to get in the habit of closing closing out the app when you are what do you call it? well, you know, when you're using a laptop. That way you don't accidentally not back up your project. Okay, here. So let's talk about here backing up on manual save. Now this is a good one too. It can it's basically if you're used to backing, if you're used to saving your project with a keyboard shortcut, using like Command S or Control S on a Mac or a PC, this is a great way to just regularly take advantage of that feature. Okay. Um, you can, let's see here. Let me look at my note here before I get trip over my words. Um, yeah, so it's a great way to if you've used the save keyboard feature shortcut, you can ensure your most recent changes are always backed up. However, the downside to this is it can also lead to older backup files being deleted in favor of newer backups, depending on how many backups you've asked Scrivener to maintain for you. So it may not be good for everyone. I do typically have it turned on because I save a lot and I usually want that newest version available. But like I said, if you're only keeping 5 backups and you save 5 times, then you're going to have all your backups are going to be really recent, which could cause a problem if you ever wanted to go way back in time, right? So you might want, if you're going to turn this one on, you may want to actually keep more backups than you normally would. Okay. Okay, we have syncing backup before syncing with mobile devices. Before opening and syncing changes with iOS, a backup will be created. This backup captures the project as it existed prior to any syncing or changes made with the mobile app. Okay, so this feature is turned on by default for everyone. Okay, but it only affects you if you use Scrivener on a mobile device, so like an iPad or iPhone, obviously. If the feature has been disabled, I do recommend you turn it back on because if you don't even if you don't use iPad or iPhone, at some point you maybe decide to it doesn't make any it doesn't have any effect on you at all. But if you are using the iPhone and iPad, you definitely want to have it turned on just in case, so that when it syncs, if there is any problem there, it'll have backed up your project before the sync changes were made, thereby saving any potential uh, conflicts or problems that may come up there. Although Scrivener does a pretty good job. I haven't had many problems with that. Okay, we can compress backups. We can organize them with dates in the file names. I do recommend you keep that turned on. We can adjust how many backups we want to keep, and we can even adjust the backup location. And by default, Scrivener kind of saves these in an out of the way folder, where they're not going to be easily tampered with. And the Mac version specifically, it's called the application support folder on your computer. However, if you'd like to save your backups elsewhere, perhaps in a documents folder or in a cloud storage service such as Dropbox, you can do so by going to Scrivener's settings there and making that change. So why don't we just go ahead and jump out of here real quick, and we'll do just that here. Give me just 1 second here while I pull that up. Okay, share. Let's go to desktop one, share here. See if I can find that. Okay, we'll open up Scrivener here. I'm just gonna load my other project there. Let's close that out. Okay, let's go to our Scrivener settings. Now, if you're using an older version of macOS, it may say preferences instead of settings. I've finally, I think, gotten used to the fact that they changed that name to settings, but it used to be called preferences. Okay, so just be aware of that if you're using an older version. Well, if we come in here, we can see at the very last tab there it says backup. And we're going to find most of our backup features that I mentioned right in here. So you can see right here we can turn automatic backups on or off. If it's not on, I recommend you turn it on. And you can see I've turned off my backup on Project Open off because, like I said, every time I jump onto a project, it'll back it up automatically when I open the project. And I found that it just slowed me down a little bit too much. It doesn't take too long, maybe like a minute or two, but most often I'm just too eager to get started. I dive right in. I wanted to just get straight to work. So if you're like me and you find that it hangs you up a little bit, holds you back, then you can turn that one off. You don't have to turn it on. As long as you have at least one of these on, that's the most important thing. But I do have backup on Project Close turned on. You can see I have backup with each manual save turned on. And once again, that's going to be a matter of preference for you. I'm only keeping 5 backups, so having those 2 on is a bit riskier because I'm going to have fewer older backup files. Okay, but for me personally, it works for me. We have the backup before syncing with mobile devices turned on. I do use mobile devices, so I definitely want to have that turned on. And like I said, I do encourage everyone to just keep that on. Now, this is a big one right here, the compress automatic backup as zip files, okay? Now, if we uncheck that box, what's going to happen is it's just going to copy the Scrivener project and place it in the backup folder. Now, if you're keeping your backup files locally, it's not a big problem. If you're going to keep your backup files in the cloud, it is going to be a problem, especially if you're not planning to use what do you call it, a Dropbox, okay? Because zipped or compressed files, they can sync fine on other cloud sync services like iCloud, Google Drive, Box, all the others. It's no problem if it's zipped, but the moment it's the Scrivener project itself, you can potentially run into data loss issues, sync issues, and other things, and I just don't recommend it. So I recommend you keep this turned on. And yeah, it is a little bit slower. The only time I'm tempted to turn this off is if I have a massive project. And even then, if that's the case, I will back up manually before if I need to, I can turn this off while I'm working on that project maybe. Use the date and file names. I do recommend, I don't know why that one's turned off, but I do recommend you turn that one on. If you don't have it turned on, Scrivener doesn't actually put them in any specific order. I think it has like a numbering scheme it uses, and that numbering scheme does not necessarily tell you exactly how old that backup is, okay? Using the date and the backup file names is ideal, so you can easily tell what is what. You can come into your Finder here and like arrange things. Let's see, sort by date created. If you're not going to use the dates like that in the name, then you'd want to come in here and use that sort option to do date created, because that's the only way you would be able to tell which one was older and which one was newer. So the dates in there just make it a little bit easier to identify when you're going in to restore from a backup. And then only keeping the 5 most recent backups. And you may wonder, why did I choose so few? Now you can see you can have as low as 3, as many as 25. Now, the specific reason I chose 5 instead of like 10 or 3, I might even up it to 10. I probably will actually. But the main reason is I don't want to keep more than 5 or 10 is because it does take up additional hard disk space. And this computer in particular, I think that's probably why I have it set to 5 on this one, it doesn't have a lot of space. I have a very small amount of space, and I can't afford to have too many backup files loaded on here at any given time, especially if your projects are rather large. They're a couple gigabytes a piece, even compressed. That can be quite massive when you have 25. So imagine even if just 1 gig a piece, that's like 25 gigs if I have 25 projects. Now, bear in mind, most Scrivener projects are pretty small. We're talking, 200 to 500 megabytes or less, depending on what you have stored inside of it. But it can, if you have like a lot of projects, and 10 versions of each project, man, that starts to really add up over time with all these different projects and all these different backups. So I recommend you be, it's going to be up to you. If you only have a couple projects, 25 may make sense to you. If you have like, a bunch of projects like me where I have like 30, 40 different projects and I have multiple versions of each, 5 to 10 per project makes a little bit more sense. Okay, so that goes into our automatic backup feature. Let's look at here. The last one here is our backup location. Now, by default, I said that is the application support folder, but you may notice already that mine is not in, actually, no, it actually is in the application support folder. I thought I changed that. But this is where it is by default. If you come here, that's where it's backing up. Right click. In application, it's in the user folder. You may notice there's the user folder. So ideally, these folders are the folders that I would back up, right? But that's where it's saving those in my Mac here. And in PC, it's going to be a little bit different, but it's going to be in that user folder on your PC as well. And probably a similar type folder where you can find those. And if you're ever wondering where that is, you can always come here into the settings, click open backup folder, and it's going to take you there. Now, typically, I'm not sure why that changed, but we're going to choose a different one. Typically, I actually keep my backups in Dropbox. I like the fact that, if my computer crashed, my backups are being uploaded to the cloud, so I can still access those from other devices in the event anything should happen to my computer here. And believe it or not, I had my Mac Mini last year or so, just before I got this new computer. It literally just it crashed on me. Stopped working. I could tell it was on its way down. Like, this is not good. It's going to stop working. And within a week or so, it just was gone. Luckily, I had things backed up and I was able to restore everything on my new computer when I got it. So we have here, you see, I have one for each device that I own. This is my PC, this is my Mac, this is my MacBook Pro, right? And so for every device, I'm going to have a specific backup folder for it. That's what I recommend you do. In my case, I'm keeping it in Dropbox, backups, and then I have the title of each device here so I can know which device is for which backups. So in this case, we do the Mac Studio backups. I'm going to go ahead and click Open. And there we go. Now that has been set up for that location. If I click Open Backup Folder, that's the folder that's going to open up now. And you can see I have a ton in there as well from all the many projects I have. And so keeping 10 of each, I'm just curious. I haven't actually looked at this in a while. Let's look and see how large this folder is just in size. Yeah, so it's pretty massive. I'm looking at about 33 gigabytes worth of data. Now, bear in mind, my projects are big. I keep a lot of stuff in there. Most of you hopefully won't have something of that size. So it's to my advantage to keep fewer backups. I probably want to stick with that 5 just for space reasons for me. Obviously, for redundancy reasons, to be able to go back in time further, it would be ideal if I could keep 10 or 25, but you kind of have to balance that a little bit, what's going to be most important for you. I'm going to keep it at 5. So there we go. And of course, at any point, you can come in here yourself and look at some of these and say, hey, do I need some of these? Some of these projects have since been deleted. And I'm like, well, I could probably go through and prune this a little bit and kind of get rid of some things that are not necessary for me anymore. I'm just curious. Let's look at if it's kind of similar across the board. So 15 here for my MacBook Pro. Interesting. Yeah, nothing there. I haven't backed up on. Oh, it's because it hasn't synced. That's why. It's not downloaded on here. So anyway, kind of something interesting to note if you're looking as we're looking through this backup process here. Let's see if there's anything I missed for automatic backups. Let's see if we can trigger one real quick. So I'm going to go ahead just so you can see what that looks like. We're going to open up the Otter and the Amulet here. See? And let's just make a short change. We'll close this up. And we will duplicate this folder here. And we'll just call it backup test, just so I know it's easy to find, easy to delete when I'm ready to do this. And we can actually just close this out, and there it goes. That's the backup being triggered. Of course, if I had used Command S or Control S, I could have triggered that backup myself, automatic backup myself, right? Because I have backup on manual save turned on. Let's actually look at that. If I did that right now, went back in here, I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut instead. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and actually delete this now. Throw it in the trash. Maybe we'll go ahead and even actually delete it. Delete. Okay, that's gone now. I'm going to put Command S, and there it goes. That triggered that automatic backup process for me. And see it's loading. This is a fairly massive project, but it's not super huge. Let's see how big it is. I don't usually check the sizes that often, so let's see. So this one's only like 119 megabytes, and that's actually one of my bigger projects for my bigger writing projects. I have other scripted projects for other things, but yeah, so it's not taking up too much space. So I imagine most of you, if you're just doing mostly text, not a lot of images, not a lot of graphics, not a lot of videos and sound files and stuff like that, most of your projects should be relatively small. It just depends. Like this one, I think I have bigger files in it. Oh no, I don't. Just let's see here. Yeah. So most of them you see are pretty small, but I do have a few that are just like big. Like they have like several gigabytes worth of data, and I just throw stuff in there to keep track of things and keep things organized. Okay. So that's how we trigger the automatic backup system. Let's jump back into the presentation, and we're going to move from automatic backups into manual backups here. Okay. So I'm going to share a different screen. Share. Let's go with desktop. Where are you? Okay, right there, desktop 3. Sorry about that. There we go. And let's look at manual. So backups can be created anytime, anywhere, using the File backup to. You can even select a location, give it a file name, etc. This backs it up as a zip file option. We'll compress the backup into a zip file. It's really useful for remote storage. And by default, the backup names are timestamped for easy identification. Okay, so watch out for that there. It's really, I mean, if you want to choose specifically where the backups go and not have like it just go to an exact location like the automatic backup does, this is a great way to just manually back up to anywhere you want. Now, what's really cool here too is actually beyond this, at least on macOS here, we can actually trigger an automatic backup for all projects that are currently open, and we do that by holding the Option key, and I'll show you how to do that. It's kind of a fun one. I did try to see if I could do it on the PC. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on the PC. Hopefully, we'll see that added at some point, but I didn't want to show it because it was a brand new thing. Actually, I didn't even know until this week. I was researching and preparing the presentation, kind of going over it again, and I was looking through the manual. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do that, just kind of as a refresher, and I saw this new little thing I'd missed. I'm like, let's add that in here, and let's take a peek at how that works. So that's kind of fun. I'll show you how that's done as well. And also, if we're going to take a little bit of time here, and I'm going to show you how to do it on an iPad, or rather on an iPhone too. My iPad's still syncing. So I'll show you how to do it on the iPhone. If the iPad happens to finish syncing with Dropbox in time, I will do that. It's redoing, my iPad's syncing everything from scratch, so it's going to take a little bit of time, but the iPhone's all ready to go, and we'll check that out, how to do that on the iPhone. It's essentially the same process, just looks a little bit different. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's talk about manual backing up. If I can find my cursor here, and let me share. Let's do desktop 1. Zoom is in the way. There we go. And let's get right into it here. Okay, so if I wanted to manually back up this project, the Otter and the Amulet, what would I do? Okay, so first what I would do is I go to File, Backup, Backup to. Now I could do Backup Now, and that's just going to trigger the same backup system, the automatic backup system, where we could just Command S or Control S, the same thing. Okay, if we want to do a manual backup, we're going to go to File, Backup, Backup to. Okay, and at this point, you can see it has the name of the project, and it has the date. It even has the time stamped into it as well, 11:31 a.m. And then I can now save this anywhere I want to. I can even change the name if I want to. Actually, the name of the project or the book now is, or the series I say is Phantom Lord Series. Might change that at some point. Okay. And then I could choose a different external drive or folder. I could save it anywhere I want to. Now, I don't have an external drive connected to my computer right now. That would be would have been a good idea. But I don't have one. But if I did, I'd find it here in my sidebar. I'd locate it in my Windows Explorer if I'm on the PC, and then I would find it and I would save it. So for example, maybe today I'll just go ahead and go into my Documents folder here, click New Folder, call it Backups. Okay. And then go ahead and save it right there. Okay. And it'll back it up. There it'll go. Let's check out our Finder, see if we can see it real quick. Documents, Backups, and there it is right there. Let's see here. I'm surprised that didn't compress. Did I not? Huh. Normally... Let's see here. Oh, one thing I should note. See, I didn't have that checked. Usually that's checked. I don't know why it wasn't. I do recommend you back up as a zip file, okay? So make sure that is checked. Good thing I saw that. I actually didn't even realize that. Good thing we checked too. So we'll actually save that again. And you see it kept the same name. If I want to change it so it does Phantom Lord all the time, I'll actually have to change the name of my project here. Phantom Lord Series. And I think we're going to have, we're at 32 now, so it'll do a new one. This time it's compressing it. Going to take just a little bit longer. Here, let me just clean my nose, guys. Sorry. Allergies. I got an allergy shot today, so it's getting to me. Okay. Yep, that looks good. Let's go back to our Finder, and there it is. Okay. Now, this is always also a bad recipe, too, having a zipped file and a live project, so to speak, an unzipped file in the same place. So I'm actually going to go ahead and delete this guy, like so. And we'll talk more about how we restore properly from this backup. Actually, you know what? We're gonna bring it back because I can easily demonstrate from both next time how to restore from these. So we'll come back to that. Okay. But typically, yeah, you wouldn't want those two together, and you'll probably see why as in the process of of working on that. Okay, let's see. Looking good. Okay, before we switch over to the iPhone to look at the iPhone manual backup feature, we're going to look at that backup all projects now using our option key on the Mac here. So what you do, it's really simple. You go to File, you hold down the option key, and you'll be interested to know it actually makes some changes elsewhere too. Other things we can kind of do by pushing the option key. And you can look around at some of the other things that happens as well. But the main one, if we come down to backup, we can click that there, and you can see it'll say backup all projects now. And this is the way quickly to manually backup all projects that are currently open. So that's one thing I want to point out too. It's not actually backing up all of your Scrivener projects, just the ones you currently have open. Okay, so just be aware of that. We click that, it's going to back those up. In this case, we only have the one project open, so it's not multiple projects being backed up. But if we did, it would back them all up right then and there, just by going to File, Backup, and then holding down Option to get that backup all projects now. Okay, so that's kind of a cool hidden little feature I bet you most of you didn't know about for the Mac there, so that's kind of a cool one. Okay, well, iPad is still syncing, so we're going to switch over to the iPhone here. Hopefully we don't have any hiccups. We'll sync later. Let's go ahead and share screens. And this is, let me know if you can't see it. I'm sure Jen will let me know if you guys say anything. But hopefully this will work and there won't be any hiccups here. Okay. Oh man, itchy nose. Okay, take my allergy medicine. Okay, so looking at it here, if we scroll down, how would we go about backing up a project on our iPhone or iPad here? Now, unfortunately, we don't have an automatic backup system in place on Scrivener for iOS or iPadOS. Maybe someday in the future, that would be really cool if we could do that. But as it stands now, if you find yourself using these devices more, you want to know how to do this, okay? So what you're going to do is you see the top right corner there is the Edit button. We can tap that Edit button like so, and it's going to allow us to select any one of our projects. And we can select multiple projects, or we can just select a single project. Now, in this case, let's go ahead and select, we'll do the Magician's Gambit this time since the Otter and the Amulet hasn't been synced yet. And what we'll do is you can see when I do that, the option appears below with a little, to share it. It has a little square with an arrow in it pointing up. I can click that button there, and it'll create an archive. In other words, it's going to zip that file for me, right? That's what it's doing. Then it's going to ask me, hey, how do I want to send this? Okay. Now, you could send this just about anywhere you want. I mean, you can email it. You can put it just about anywhere you want on your phone, and depending on which apps you have available to you, you could throw it in Dropbox, it looks like, too. But for our cases, we're going to just save it to iCloud Drive. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, iCloud Drive is excellent for backing up projects, so it's perfect place to do this. There's no problem with that, so long as it's zipped, right? In this case, you can see right there, it says at the top, zip archive. It's 2.2 megabytes, not big at all. So we're going to click Save to Files, and I believe, yep, I already have it set up. Let's go pretend like I hadn't been there. It usually will take you to your iCloud Drive here. I can scroll down. You can see if I don't have a folder called Scrivener Backups, I can tap the three dots and create a new folder called Scrivener Backups. In this case, I already have it, so I'll tap it there. Once again, I do it by device. I have an iPad Pro, I have an iPhone 13 Pro Max, I have an iPhone SE. So I'll choose whichever one I'm going to be using. In this case, I'm using the iPhone SE, so I'll tap that guy right there. Okay, see, I already have a zip file there from a different project, and I can just click Save, like so, and it'll save it there. Okay, now it's done. It's been backed up to iCloud now. So that's kind of handy. And I can do this to any of my projects. I can do it to all of my projects if I wanted to. Very easily just by selecting these and doing the same thing. It looks like I can only do, let's see. Yep, I can only do one at a time. Where is that? Yep, I can only do one at a time. So, but we could do that easily by do that and then save it. So ideally, this is something you want to be doing probably after you've finished working on the project at the end of the day, or maybe before you start up. It's going to be up to you how do you decide to do that. Personally, you're going to always see me doing it at the end of after I'm done working on something. So that's how we do that. Pretty simple. Let me show you one more time. You tap Edit, tap your project, click the Share button at the bottom, create the archive, choose where you want to send it. It could be anywhere you want. If you're saving it to iCloud, we click Save to Files. In this case, it's already defaulted to that location because that's where I saved it last time. Click Save. There we go. And you're done. You've backed up your project on an iPhone. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop the share there. And we are good to go. And just so you can see it, how it looks on our on our computer here, we can go to our iCloud drive right here. I can find Scrivener backups right there, iPhone SE, and there are all my backups right there available to me. I could actually open them and restore backup from my computer here if I wanted to, very easily and very quickly. Okay. So let's look. Let's see. I think we covered everything for manual backups. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. I don't think so. I think that's it. But let's go ahead and switch back to our presentation here. I'm going to stop share for just a second. Switch back to desktop 3. And we're going to get rolling on our last couple slides here. Now, I kind of covered this a little bit already now that I think about it. Because I've talked about, we're going to talk about it just a little bit more anyway, just as a refresher maybe. First off, backing up to the cloud. One thing I like to remind everyone about cloud syncing, I do back up to the cloud and I do like it a lot, but it's not 100% foolproof, right? Files in the process of syncing things, files can get corrupted. Things can happen, right? Because as you're moving things back and forth between devices and servers and things like that. So it's not foolproof. I still think it's an excellent option. It's definitely great. It's a great redundancy, and I do like it primarily because if my computer crashes, I can rely on that cloud sync a little bit, to recover some things. So, but you'll notice I'll keep things in all sorts of places, not just in the cloud. I keep things on external devices. I keep things saved locally on my computer. I kind of keep them all over the place, so that way, if one of these options fails, I can always restore from another place. Okay. So let's look at it. First off, when I'm doing, if I'm doing saving things in the cloud, I have a dedicated backup folder per device. So one backup folder per device. I do recommend this so you can kind of keep them separate and you know which backups came from which device. This will ensure that all backups are accessible and organized, making it easier to retrieve a specific version of your project if needed based on the last device you use. You don't have to, if you have them all in one place, it's going to be hard to tell which device it came from. There could be potential overwrites too. I just recommend you keep them all separated, one device per folder like I just did. And you don't have to give the exact specific name. You could call it a Mac, PC, whatever, but just make it clear so you know what is what. In my case, I own far too many devices, so I use very specific names so I can tell what is what. Keep live projects, keep live projects separate from backups. And this is true for all backups. But it's more important to know if you're using a cloud sync service for your backups. Make sure you keep your backup files and your folders separate from your live projects, as any backup could potentially overwrite and corrupt or delete the original project files if they're stored in the same location. That's what I was talking about earlier. I had that live project, the unzip project, and the other one in the same folder. That could cause problems if you open up that project in the same folder. It could potentially overwrite things as things are being backed up. Just want to avoid that. Keep them separate from each other. Let's see if I missed something here. Yeah. And so with all that said and done, which cloud services do we recommend you use for backups? And I do have some good news here. Unlike the regular Scrivener project, where we recommend basically only Dropbox because it's the only service that uses a sync methodology that is really compatible with Scrivener projects. If the backups are zipped, you can use just about any cloud sync service you want because they all treat them exactly the same way, because it treats it as a single file instead of a bunch of multiple different files, which is really what a Scrivener project is. It's a folder with all these different files in it. It looks like one file on a Mac. On a PC users know this too. Know this a little bit better. They actually have to open up their Scrivener project folder, and they'll click this .scrivs file to open up their project, so they can see there's a bunch of different files there. But yeah, typically, as long as it's zipped up, it's compressed, you can save that anywhere you want. I save it in iCloud, I save it in Dropbox, and I think I used to save it in Google Drive. I've kind of stopped using Google Drive, but you could save it in Google Drive, you could save it in Box. I'm trying to think, you could save it in OneDrive. Those would all be perfectly fine. And I'm sure a lot of you have some of those services already, so that'll be some good news for you that you can do that. Now, I've kind of already gone over the dedicated backup folder per device, so I don't think I'm going to cover that again. So I think what we'll do is we'll move on to restoring our projects, how to go about doing that the proper way. And we'll also kind of keep in mind keeping our live projects separate and what that might look like as we move forward here. So the second most important aspect is knowing how to restore your work from backups. Of course, you need to know how to make a backup, but once you've backed up, how do I actually restore something if I do experience a data loss or a project corruption or something? So in the unfortunate event that the backup needs to be resolved, an issue with you need to resolve an issue with your current project, you can utilize Scrivener's automatic backup feature to revert to an earlier version. And by default, as you mentioned earlier, these are stored in kind of an out of the way location in that application support folder unless you've changed that location to somewhere else. Either way, it's pretty easy to get there to it. So let's look at that. Remove and replace. How are we going to do that? I'm going to stop that there. We're going to switch over to here, and we're going to look at that right now. Okay. So let's go back to our backup folder here where we had those two files, right? So let's go to documents. Where are you? I can't see it. Backups. Okay. So first off, when you are restoring from a backup, okay, that is uncompressed like this one here, okay, like not ideal, but if you decide to keep your backups uncompressed, it's really important that you don't just double click it and open it, okay? Because when you do that, you'll actually be editing the backup file. And you could, basically anything you change in there, those changes will stay, right? They won't be, it's gonna be the actual project that you're changing, and so that backup will essentially no longer be a backup anymore. It'll be a project you've kind of messed around with and used, and it's no longer its original backup form, right? So what you need to do is actually copy it. Now you can do this, I think, on the PC as well. Let me see if I can find the keyboard shortcut for it real quick. Yeah, curl. If you hold curl on the PC, and if you hold option on a Mac, when you drag it away like this, it'll create a copy. Okay, and that's the one you'll want to take out of this folder altogether. Let's actually make this a bit smaller. And let's minimize this guy here. We'll want to take it out of our backup folder, put it somewhere outside of it, and then we can go ahead and double click it and open it. And then we can look through and say, okay, am I either look for the missing piece, the thing that I'm missing that was maybe I'm missing a document or a scene or a chapter or something, like, okay, let's see if it's here. And if it is, great, I'll copy that chapter over to my project, or if need be, I can restore and use this as my new project, right, as the case may be. But you'll notice I didn't actually edit the backup, I just copied it over. Now, fortunately, for zip files, you don't have to worry too much about this. You just double click it, and depending on what your utility tool does, usually most of them will just copy it, and then you can actually bring it outside of your backup folder, and once again, you can open that up and use it, okay? In this case, even though the name was the Phantom Lord series, right, it actually pulled it out as if it were the actual project, the Odd and the Amulet. So just be aware that don't get confused there. You may want to just actually come here and copy this and apply that to the name just in case, so that way you don't get it confused with your live project. Okay, but that's the recommended way you do it. Now, one thing to note, if I open up this project, this is a bad idea. We don't want to open the same project in the same place as its backup, okay? Usually Scrivener gives you a warning. Maybe I accidentally toggled that warning off. I can't remember. But usually it'll say that project is not in the recommended save location. And if you get that warning, it means you've done this. It means you have a backup and a live project in the same folder, and you don't want that. All you have to do is move them to separate folders, and you'll be good to go here. And of course, if I wanted to, I could just right-click and compress this guy right here. That would compress it. And I could even just delete this guy. Now I'd have those backups together like so, and that wouldn't be a problem for me. And I can delete these guys once I know that either I don't need them, or if I do need it, I can move it in and replace it with a project that maybe isn't working. Okay, so let's see here. Let's see if anything I missed. This is the wrong presentation. Where did my presentation go? There it is. Okay. So that's removing and replacing a backup right here on your PC. I mean, on your Mac or PC. Really easy to do. Really simple. There you go. Let's see if I missed anything else. Okay. I think that's about it for today. So we're going to move on and wrap up our presentation with our last few slides. Okay, we'll talk about what's coming up next. So give me just a second while I do that here. And of course, we'll open up for a Q&A if you guys have any questions here at the end. And I'm sure you will. This tends to be one of those topics that people have a lot of questions about. So we'll see what happens. Let us share. Okay, let's talk about free resources. Now, there are some great resources here I have available for you. And you may recall as well that Catherine sent us a link to how to do the iOS backupping on in our last session. So if you want that link, I did actually post it on YouTube so you can see it on there and grab that link and go and read all about it if you want to read it versus watch it, right? But we have some other great free resources as well. I have my free starter novel template. If that's something that interests you, be sure to check out ojevinson.com/links and get access to that. I did get some emails about that yesterday, people asking for it. That's the way to get it. Go to my link or to ojevinson.com/newsletter, get signed up for that, and you'll be able to get access to that free starter novel template. Also, we have our webinar library where we post webinars all the way back when. So check that out. We have tons and tons and tons of webinars in there that'll be really great for you guys to look through and get familiar with and get that training you need. We have a user forum, user manuals, blog and video tutorials, and so much more. Check out those out, and you can access that all by going to ojevinson.com/links and literatureandlatte.com/learn and support. Okay. So let's talk about what's coming next, okay? What's next? Well, I am excited. This next month, we're going to be starting a little bit earlier than normal. We're going to be joining us on Monday, July 15th, 2024 at 11 a.m. Central, 5 p.m. UK, where we'll be talking about mastering Scrivener. We're going to talk about leveling up your writing with 6 Scrivener tools. And I kind of see this as my, my next step after my quick start webinar. So if you recently saw one of my quick start webinars, this would be kind of like the next level up. This would be like the next webinar after that, where we just go a little bit beyond the basics and go into some, I wouldn't call advanced. You could call them advanced, but really just the next set of tools you want to familiarize yourself once you get started with Scrivener. I'll teach you how to go just a bit beyond Scrivener's fundamentals so you can level up your writing in Scrivener. Okay. Now, before I conclude the webinar, I just want to make sure that I delivered on my promise. Do you guys feel that you learned how to back up your writing in Scrivener? Are you confident that you can keep your projects safe from data loss? And I'd love to hear from you. I feel like I haven't been nearly as involved in the chat as I normally like to. So let me know if you're feeling like it, if it makes sense, if you got it. If there is any confusion, that's perfectly fine. That's why we have the Q&A coming up next. So if you have any questions, we can get to it. So Osa says, absolutely, thanks, good. John says, you got it, great, glad to hear it. Sophie says, yeah, pretty straightforward. Susan says, yes, and thanks for the distinctions you have made, perfect. Zachary says, this is helpful. At some point, I'd be interested to get your thoughts about alternating backups and snapshots. That's actually a good thought. That's actually one thing I considered adding to this presentation, because snapshots is also kind of a backup feature, right? It's an internal backup feature, but it is kind of a backup feature where we keep track of versions of our documents and our scenes and our chapters and things like that. So yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about that, because that is a good one. That is a good tool to use internally in Scrivener. Deborah says, brilliant, thank you. Beef says, certainly ironed out my doubts and filled in gaps. Okay, glad to hear it. Okay, great. So there we go. Hopefully we're all where we need to be. And let's jump into our Q&A. If you have any questions here, now is the time. Don't be shy, ask away. I'd love to answer those questions for you. Of course, here are the emails. If for any question we can't get to, we're happy to help you out. And of course, you can always reach out to me at contact@ojevinson.com. Okay, so I'm going to close that out there and open the floor up to you guys. We actually have lots of time, so we can spend, anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes on this whole thing. So let me know if you guys got any questions. We can do it. Okay, so Lee's asking, how can you discuss backing up themes, word lists, dictionaries, preferences, things like that? Yeah, so we can kind of look at that a little bit. Let's go into Scrivener here. into settings. So if we wanted to back up our Scrivener settings, how I would do that is I'd come over here and actually save my, I can save my settings to a file. I could save my theme to a file. Now, oh, thank you. Good thing you reminded me. Let me stop share, make sure I got the right one pulled up. Okay, can you see it now? Perfect, thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so if we come in here, we have Scrivener open, right? If I want to save my preferences or my settings or my theme settings, I can actually do that in settings here. Okay, and for PC users, it's going to be options. So look for your Scrivener options. But I can come here and come to manage, and I can save settings as a preset. That's actually going to save it here as a preset. But what I really want to do is save settings to a file. Okay, and this is something you might want to get in the habit to do if you're not regularly backing up your entire computer. Okay, if you're backing up your entire computer using Apple's Time Machine feature, or you have your own system or service for backing up the entire computer, then you don't really need to do this, okay? Because you're backing up your computer, you shouldn't have to do this. But if you're not backing up the entire computer, something you might want to consider doing, right? You can save these settings to a file. And you can also save your themes to a file, depending on which one you have loaded up here, okay? And you can see if I wanted to load them back in, I could load the settings and I could load the themes. Now, this isn't necessarily designed as a backup feature, so to speak, right? This is designed so I can save it and take it to a different computer and then load those same preferences onto a different computer, but the concept is the same. I could save these down, keep even a little backup folder in the cloud or on an external drive, and then just kind of have those there. So in the event that my computer crashes, I can download Scrivener on my new computer, plug in my external drive, or go to the cloud and quickly download these files and put them right back in Scrivener. It'd be like Scrivener never left. It'd be like a never left Scrivener. Everything would be the same. All my presets would be just how I want them to be. So that's how I would go about doing that. Thanks for that question, Lee. That was a good question. Let's see. I gotta find my chat again. It just keeps disappearing on me. Okay, any other questions, guys? That was a good question. Let me see here. I'm looking through the chat, see if there's anything I missed. Best practices for snapshots. Can those be automated? Okay, that's a good question. Yes, they can kind of be automated. And you might see it already in this one where I have untitled save, untitled save, untitled save. So every time I have it so that when I save, it'll snapshot any documents that have been changed during that session, and it'll also back up the project. So it's kind of a double win. So to be fair, I kind of use my snapshots more as a backup system than a version tracker. Although I'm starting to change my mind on that, because you can see it's not as nice looking or very usable. I would really prefer to use this more for keeping track of versions of my draft. But it is good because I can come in here, I can save it, and I can quickly get a snapshot, and it'll give me, it'll allow me to go through these and see, okay, compare differences and see, well, there's something missing that I wanted to change, or something that needs to be something going on there I need to work on. So what we'll do, how we set that up, in case you're wondering, we go to Scrivener, Settings, I believe it's under Savings, and we turn on Take Snapshots of Changed Text on Manual Save. Click that there. That'll automate it for you, kind of, right? Obviously, it's you have to still remember to use Command S or Control S on the PC, but that kind of automates it for you a little bit, so you don't always have to go and come up here and go to Document, Snapshot, Take Snapshot. And like I said, it works well as a backup feature. You're going to get a lot of these untitled save stuff like that. So if you do it and you want to keep it organized, you're going to want to come in here probably and maybe change these from time to time, but it can be a little tedious, to be honest. It can be, it's kind of a pro and a con there. I keep lots of versions, which is great, but I have lots of stuff to wade through too. That might be where, if you're not familiar with this, the snapshot manager will come into good effect for you. We can come down here, show snapshot manager here, like so. This loads all the snapshots for your entire project, okay? So you can see them all right here. And you can even load them right here, look at them, see what they are. I think you can even change the names as well by double clicking it like so. So that might be a good way. You can even compare them. Yeah, so kind of nice. You can do this. for every single thing all at once in one place in the Snapshots Manager. So that's a pretty useful tool. They can be automated, and like I said, I'm to the point where I'm not liking this system as much because it does kind of create a lot of clutter here in my snapshots. I would prefer, I think, moving forward. That's why I even have it turned off now. Why I have it turned off. I'm probably going to be moving forward where I'm just snapshotting very intentionally to keep track of specific versions of my draft as I'm writing it. Okay. So there you go. Hopefully that helps you answer your question there, Zachary. This command or only file backup to. Lee, I'm not sure what what you're referencing there. Does that work when file exit command or only backup to? Let me know. Okay, perfect, Zachary. Glad that helped you out there. Okay, so if you can clarify your question, Lee, I'd be happy to try to answer it for you. Let's see, file. Yeah, I'll have to look at that. Oh, the file exit closes all open projects on the PC. And okay, and or only file backup to. Okay, I'm not sure about that, Lee. Maybe it's because I'm not fully understanding the question, but you can you might want to email us or email me that one, maybe a little bit more in depth, so I can figure out what's going on with that question. So I apologize, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about there. But let's see. I wonder if they even have a file. We don't have that on the Mac here, unfortunately. It looks like we do have the option to minimize our windows. And there's a way to actually close them all at once. So, yeah. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that one. I'll have to look into it. Okay, guys. Well, we are officially at the top of the hour. And since we don't have a ton of questions, I think we're going to wrap it up there for today. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Let me go ahead and quickly share these emails again. If you have any questions that I couldn't get to today, let us know. Jen is on our technical support team here. My colleagues will be more than happy to help you. And, if you can send it to the right email, that'll help them out a little bit. But one way or the other, we're going to get you taken care of. And, of course, if you have any webinar-related questions, any topics you'd like to see, any feedback you'd like to give, let me know. Send it to me at contact@ogevinson.com. I'll be happy to help you out. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Helen, too. I'm glad this was really helpful. Appreciate you guys. And I will catch you all next month, July 15th. Mark your calendars. I'll be sending it on an email, too. So for those of you who are subscribed, so you don't forget, we got some great stuff coming your way. Thanks, Bill. I'm looking forward to the next one, too. It's going to be a lot of fun. So keep on writing, and I will catch you all next time. Okay?